Hi there, I'm Ahsan Ali Shaw, and you're watching me on YouTube and Facebook Live. Today we are going to talk about a very simple and but a very important question: how and where to find peace. Peace is something that we all want, whether it is peaceful environment, mm, peace. How to find peace is a kind of, you can say, peace of mind and soul, politic peace in the atmosphere, peaceful work environment, and many other kind of peace. Or we can say the peace we want, a connection between our inner self and outer self. And to discuss this topic, my guest is Adrian Sortino. He has joined us from Footscray, Victoria, Australia.
How are you, my brother?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Very, very well. Very well.
Okay. When we talk about peace, many people suggest that meditation, going out in the country, and talking with the positive mindset, having a positive mindset, and talking, engaging yourself with the people who have also the positive mindset. And I think before discussing the topic, how to find peace or where to get it, I think we should first define what is peace. I think then we would be able to better understand and comprehend the concept of peace and where to get it or how to find peace. How would you define peace?
Well, you've got to stop a chase, firstly.
Okay. Mhm,
And everything is designed around the chase. Us
mhm,
to find a career, find a house to live, find a family, everything part of
mhm,
as part of that orientation is a chase.
mhm,
Finding peace within yourself is
mhm,
the first place to include the element of worth. So with worth, you will find excitement, you will find joy as you actually start to find self and curate self. And with all of that going on and everything else going on, peace is the hardest thing to actually arrive to, if you could say it like that, because we don't really know what peace has been all our life, because there has been a lot of construct that has been completely against what our intention was. But we had to go through that journey to
mhm,
fulfill whatever requirement we had to in this life.
mhm.
So finding,
But
as you said,
mhm,
spending it with people that are of like-minded approach or like-minded beings.
mhm,
Um, being focused on self predominantly to see
mhm,
how you go through the journey, because the implementation of peace is to have it as a living peace.
mhm.
So you are going to go through those hurdles and trials of tribulation as there is everybody else trying to arrive to an element which they might not even see as peace.
Mhm. So I think I have got here two questions. First, you said we have to start. We have to stop chasing. We have to stop running after things that the media and the world has set for us. And I agree. But I think, don't you agree that chase is also our survival instinct, that we strive for something that we want to achieve in life. If we remove the element of chase, then what is the purpose of life?
Well, the element of chase is then put back into us to whether or not we want to chase or we strategize to just simply walk through the journey. As
Mhm,
you know yourself, when something is outside of your reach at this current
mhm,
moment, you
mhm,
strive to do the things necessary to accomplish that goal at
mhm,
meeting requirement.
mhm,
So in that interaction, you might not be in peace for 5/8 of that program, for five
mhm,
eighths of that chase. The
mhm,
stress, and then you get there to find the peace. So okay, let's talk about it in a career. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about going the 5 years of training and journey and everything like that, the failings, the quality stuff, and then the stuff that was not so good in quality and was rejected by those
Mm-hmm.
peers, those support base that we come from. It happens to everybody. The
Mm-hmm.
things that the things that go through our mind is failure, unworthiness.
Mm-hmm.
I hate this thing. I hate this thing. I don't want to do this. This is rubbish. Where does it get me? Where does it do this? Why? Oh my God! Blah 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 blah. Causing
Mm-hmm.
chaos,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to peace. Now, is that part of today's story? Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it part of today's story? Because the writers made it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if there was
So
no, yep,
we can also say that the part of the story, the chase is the piece, or we can the piece is should be our chase.
well, the peace should be our chase. Once we
Mm-hmm.
actually establish in our own orientation that the
Mm-hmm.
chase that they want us to do is not really required, because it
Mm-hmm.
loses all of the other things, the integrity, the well-being, the practice of self. It loses all of that orientation, loses all of
Mm-hmm.
that skill set, whilst we continue on that chase, being subjected to an external element that we are not,
Mm-hmm.
completely dividing the ego of us and the spiritual of us by putting
Mm-hmm.
it in a chase of finances, learned capacities, understanding, and I suppose fitting within the scope of what they've created.
Mm-hmm. So
Living
now we have to. So we can also there's a the peace is in ourself instead of outself or externally in the external environment. If we are in a peace within ourselves, then we would be able to find peace uh, externally and outside in the macro environment.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of
Mhm.
course. But that's always going to be executable by the moment that you're carrying. The intention of walking into a place with living peace is going to experience the every fraction of what is there when you what's available, and it's going to be thrown at you because you're different. You're arriving different than a lot of people because your paramount importance to self is to remain within living peace. So the experience of having an argument, the experience of having an altercation, the experience of having a division of narrative with whoever is there, that's going to happen because truth is going to be faced. Truth is going to be witnessed by those people, by yourself, in the experience of you obtaining living peace for your own journey, for your own being. Because the chaos we've all lived amongst for a long while. And then when clarity is provided within the mind, the heart is then telling what the mind what voice it needs to be speaking at and how it's needing to deliver who it is, what they are, the intention of why they're arriving. Peace is peace is everything around us every minute of the day when there is no voice attached to it. Peace is a song. Peace is the wind. Peace is the waves in the water. As
What
destructive as all of that looks,
What about the conflict? What about the inner conflict we have within ourselves and ourselves, the peace? I think the conflict caused the main problem because of the conflict, because what we thought of it, what we think of it ourselves, and what is the outer self. When there is a conflict between our inner self and outer self, then at that point the peace becomes questionable.
most definitely, most
Mhm,
definitely is, and that's a beautiful way to put it because
mhm,
the conflict that we have within ourself is a lot of those two voices, those two minds in which we're carrying.
mhm,
Um, the intuitive mind as well as I would say the realistic mind of where we
Mhm,
are, because the intuitive mind, there is a lot of negotiation,
mhm,
as it doesn't hurt you. It never wants to hurt you. It will show you the information of what you've previously witnessed, what you've previously dealt with, what you've actually experienced.
mhm,
And we've forgotten all that.
mhm,
We have hardline forgotten a lot of the thousands of years that we have lived.
mhm,
And in this lifetime, the bubble that they've been able to manipulate this being in is predominantly that of nothing, nothing, that of
mhm,
wealth, abundance, and greed, and gluttony, and sin.
mhm,
Okay. That
mhm,
is a lot of today's mind if we talk about the perverseness of where we are, the perversity of where we find ourselves within a storyline as a culture, as a race. Okay.
mhm,
And I talk about not a race to get to the finish line, a race in
mhm,
species,
mhm,
because the world has allowed these stories to manifest. The world
mhm.
has allowed this orientation of story to arrive. And that has depleted the very culture of intuition and I suppose integrity,
Mhm.
all of this. So
So, so the
from that,
question is now the question is how to find peace after establishing the fact about removing the conflict within ourselves and outer self, stopping chase and trials and tribulation and stress. They are the main causes of stress. And now the question is how to find peace and where can you get it? I think it would have become very easy for people, but I want you to say it.
okay, well, finding peace, firstly,
Mhm,
is sitting silent, knowing
mhm,
that you don't quite fit in, whatever circumstances allow you to sit silent for a while. And when you do sit silent,
mhm,
know that there's going to be an argument between the two duality of what you are, the
mhm,
experience of taken in this life and the experience of what intuition is going to show you from past lives.
mhm,
And don't rush to blend that, don't rush to transmute or assimilate that,
mhm,
because that is your whole journey up until now. If you
mhm,
exaggerate peace, like, we can say that we're at peace, but there's a lot of things that disturb us culturally, so you
mhm,
can't really be at peace. Knowing that that
mhm,
whole story has to be managed, has to be catered to,
mhm,
as we dissect it now and see what is no longer valid. The peace is the experience of allowing the time that they negotiate by to just dissipate. The duality of who you thought you were within an egotistical mind and what you would do to make sure that you got involved, as opposed to sitting silent and just letting it come forward as you come from internal to external to be the very truth of why you are here, the representation of you, nobody else. Peace
mhm.
starts with you. Peace doesn't start with you. The world will not commit to peace.
Hmm. So why is it so difficult to find peace?
Why is it so difficult to find peace?
Mhm, mhm,
I suppose in a world where there's money, in a world where there is greed, in a world where there is ego, peace
mhm,
doesn't pay the bills.
mhm,
Peace doesn't pay the bills. Peace does not
mhm,
create abundance of wealth for those that actually take it down that path. You can't
mhm,
go. You can't go you can't go cash a peace check.
mhm,
Yeah. The negotiation of peace is to symbolize what we are, as opposed to what everything else is that we see around us that isn't human. And are
mhm,
they living in peace? Are they simply just being what they are supposed to be?
mhm,
And it our torment, is it our destruction that actually creates the instability for that living species to live, those
mhm,
living elements to live? Is it us that is doing all of that? Hell yeah.
mhm, mhm. So
Finding
when I think we find ourselves back at the first point that we don't. we should start chasing, and peace, on the other hand, doesn't pay our bills. So how do you resolve this dilemma that if we have to work, we have to do everything that in order to survive. As I said earlier, the chasing is a part of survival. But if we stop surviving, if we start chasing it, then we won't be able to pay our bills and perform our daily routine tasks.
Yeah. Definitely you
Mhm,
can. You
mhm,
can't look at it as a money-making pit. When you step
mhm,
back, simplicity of life will show you what you need to do to actually create that way of paying your way.
mhm,
Okay. And then it comes down to the intuitive life skills that we've all
mhm,
arrived with in the simplicity of our design from the very first breath. And then you
mhm,
will see people walk away from careers because the career is the one that is not giving them peace.
mhm.
The career
So,
and the unstable work environment is the one that's not giving the individual life peace, living peace. So
mhm,
people, we all know about tree changes, we all know about sea changes, where people just pick up everything that they've got in the metropolis that they are, sell up, and then move to a place where there's forest or there's ocean.
mhm,
That's a variation of trying to live within living pieces. They're adjusting their truest self. Later down the
mhm,
path, they'll see that they don't have to work 5 days. They only have to work 3 days to accomplish the same amount of money necessary for them to compile to live. We would see that COVID has already shown that and highlighted that as a huge component of work-life balance.
mhm,
Yeah. Now, these
mhm,
work-life balance words only come out in the last 20, 30 years, maybe 40 years. When everybody was throwing themselves into doing more than 40 hours a week, some up to 70, 90, 110 hours,
mhm,
and not having a work-life balance. So with work-life balance, there is an element of peace that you need to coordinate for your well-being. And what is peace? Is peace the ability to breathe freely
mhm,
without the stress of an anxiety of thoughts that have been inundated by a story that really has no regard to you in its first place?
mhm.
These are the
So in
things
other
that get
So, in other words, we can say maintaining a balance while chasing it, or the process of chasing is good as long as the process remains peaceful, as long as you maintain a balance between your personal life and your professional life, between the work environment, instead of working more to get it, you just do it. Okay, that's whatever I have for today. It suffices. It pays for my bills. It pays for my family. It pays for the food on my table. Then okay, it's good. Instead of working full night and double shifts, and the I think first you exhaust yourself, exhaust your body, then it impacts you personally and internally. When you're physically exhausted, then how can you expect to have inner peace? So it is important to maintain, as you said, maintain a work balance and between personal life and professional life. When you maintain that balance, then you would be able to uh, find peace. And I think the process of chasing matter. As long as the process remains peaceful, then chasing is good. But if the process of chasing becomes stress, if the process giving you stress, if the chase becomes a depression, it causing you exhaustion physically and mentally, then okay, and I agree, then the chase is not good, is not the answer.
well. Okay, I use the word chase
Mhm,
as what they organized. That is how they set up
mhm,
the journey of a life within the experience now. So
mhm,
the chase is you're born, you go to school at a very young
Mhm.
age. They're starting to ask you what you want to do for the rest of your life.
Mhm.
So then you do some things, and we don't know. We do
Mhm.
not know. A child does not know what the 9/10 of the children that are asked do not know what they want to be. And if they
Mhm.
are wanting to be that, they don't know the circumstances that they need to take to get there.
Mhm.
Okay. So from the very beginning, at an adolescent, they're getting you to chase. Now, if you're good
Mhm.
at sport, they're getting you to run down that sports path and then
Mhm.
tire yourself on a chase to try and find a level of professionalism, which is 1 to
Mhm.
2% of the population, to entertain. That's all it is,
Mhm.
to entertain the other 98% and be paid in accordance to do so. More so than not, injuries go, people don't get their drugs and everything like that. So it's a
Mhm.
failed pathway. And if you don't meet the criteria of, I suppose, the forefathers in
Mhm.
that are choosing party, the people that
Mhm.
choose, you got no chance. You got no chance. If you don't fit, again, it's like the rest of society. If you don't fit within an interview with the corporation you go to, then you're not going to get the job.
Mhm.
Okay. So
Mhm.
in all of that,
Mhm.
we go on
Hi,
interviews.
Stephanie. Mhm.
Hello, Stephanie. We go on interviews. We go on. We put our thing in these situations where there is
Mhm.
somebody that is actually
Mhm.
critiquing us to see whether or not we're valid to work within that corporation. Now, that person
Mhm.
might be threatened by your arrival because you
Mhm.
might be that good at what you do, and they can see that. So then you don't even get the opportunity to get into the job there because they
Mhm.
already feel as if you're something better than they are.
Mhm.
So the chase that they designed is very disturbing because it's handled by us.
Mhm.
By us. Yeah.
Mhm.
When you go to an interview, Hassan, it's the same
Mhm.
person as you that's been there a little bit longer that has filled the role.
Mhm.
And expected to give a criteria or a critique on you when they don't know
Mhm.
you. Off a resume, well, off a resume, it's ridiculous what we can actually fill on there, put
Mhm.
into it that can be barefaced lies.
Mhm.
There is nothing of substance within that current orientation of the chase, let alone the whole experience of life as a human being since I've been born in 1974.
Mhm.
It has been complete deterioration of dignity,
Mhm.
stripping the peak of what we thought we had with the simplicity of life. My parents love to sit and just play games or watch TV. Yeah,
Mhm.
that stuff's gone now. They can still
Mhm.
do it, but there's no innocence there. There's no, it's stripping of culture, firstly, because they're lost. They're just zombies in regards to seeing, hearing. They're not picking things up like we are.
Mhm.
The game has allowed that clutter to remain as the paramount inclusion to that person.
Mhm.
Too much chaos and noise to find peace when you're experiencing a life of something that they don't want you to succeed.
Mhm. So, can we find a balance between chase and peace, between the objective? Can we find a balance between the objective and goals set by the world and, as you're describing, peace in ourselves? Can we find the balance?
Ah, yeah, you can when you completely separate from anything that you thought that you were going to be beforehand and
Mhm.
allow everything that you compiled within that form of chase. And I talk
Mhm.
about the journey, I talk about
Mhm.
the mission in how
Mhm.
you think that you're going to get into that place or continue to be there.
Mhm.
You um, you sit in a place where you don't want to do anything. You sit in the
Mhm.
silence of like, oh wow, okay, I can do that, but do I really want to? Because I've done that before. I've done similar to that before, and I've seen the cause and effect of somebody that wasn't on the same page.
Mhm.
So to decline the chase is only then to strategize where you are going to place yourself as you now exist
Mhm.
within peace. So within living peace, you have then got that as the jacket that you wear or the hat that you wear. That
Mhm.
that is part of you now. So
mhm,
when you arrive, you give that open availability for people to understand that this is why you're here. Not to literally tell them I'm in living peace, but just let them play with their words. And the way that they play with their words and their narrative, it stands out pertinent to you, how you can get through that and still remain within living peace.
So, in other words, we should have multiple choices and multiple options for us for our we have multiple goals, multiple objective, and we should have many choices and many sure instead of one sticking it to one. If you are fine, there should be, in other words, we can say there should be a contingency plan, that how if this not worked out, then there should be next one. If it doesn't work out, then there's the third plan, there's a plan D. Hmm?
Yeah, well, there's 26 letters in our alphabet, so to
Mhm,
work off A would be pretty ignorant, knowing that you
mhm,
can do it 25
mhm,
times. But
mhm,
in regards to that,
mhm,
you you don't expect, seriously, you don't
mhm,
expect, because expecting
mhm.
creates chaos, because you're putting yourself into an expectation.
Hey
Um,
Donna.
how are you, Donna? An
Mhm,
expectation that you're only wanting to meet. Other people
mhm,
aren't aware of
mhm,
it. Being open, being truthful, being transparent to the
mhm,
point of understanding, and the fellow people understanding who you are, what you are. Um,
mhm,
allowing truth to be at the forefront of all discussions,
mhm,
allowing the vibration
mhm,
and energy to be two words that are used within the
mhm.
construct of your narrative.
Yes,
Um,
you are awesome. Mhm,
opening up pathways,
mhm,
opening up ways for people to take on board what they just
mhm,
felt as you arrive.
mhm,
Well, living peace is being that of everything and nothing at the same time.
mhm. Okay. And your final thoughts on peace, how to find it, where to get it. Now we have discussed, I think we have to, first of all, we should have many contingency plan. If the plan A doesn't work out, there should be a plan B, the plan C, the plan D, and those many plans, they help us to find a peace within ourselves, or to build a bridge, to establish a bridge between ourselves and outer world. Once we are able to remove the conflict between our inner self and outer self, then we would be able to find peace. And secondly, we should stop chasing it. The world, as you said, the world designed us. We are handled, we are told that be there, you should be that person. You should be acceptable in the society. If you achieve this, if you have a house, if you have okay, all of these things are important. They are part of survival, but it doesn't mean I'm sorry. It doesn't mean you have to just strive for it. And if you are going to if you are start running after money, then you aren't going to find it. The peace is in ourselves, and that's how to find and where to get it. Is the peace is in ourselves, is the find is building a bridge, establishing a bridge between ourselves and outer self, and that's how we can find peace. And what are your final thoughts on peace, how to find peace?
Well, anything in the
Hmm.
life of you've just come from, to
Hmm.
try and find an element of peace within that,
Hmm.
is a good starting point. But
Hmm.
then, in a reflection of what peace is in the truth of you, now that you are providing a clarity as you've defragged from thought
Hmm.
process, you
Hmm.
will see a lot of the element of peace in the former life, in this former version of you, does
Hmm.
not blend in the same element of peace in which you've just arrived. Because the consideration of your worth is so much more heightened now, as you are now refreshed in
mhm,
regards to taking that next step in this life.
mhm,
Slow everything down, strategize your worth when you
mhm,
include yourself into places where you normally aren't, and
mhm,
see the change. See the changes. Be the writer of your own story now, as opposed to
mhm,
being led as a character within a novel.
mhm.
And then you'll start to see things.
Be the be the protagonist of your own story. Once you are the writer of your own story, then you would be able to find peace. And I think it's a beautiful way to end the discussion. How to find peace and where to get it is be the writer of your own story. Once
Mhm.
you have the control over your life, over your design, over your goals, over your objectives, instead of letting the world decide the goals and objectives set for you. You don't have to do it. Yeah, then you won't be able to find the peace. Once you are the writer of your own journey, then you can do anything, and that's how we can find peace. And that's our message. And it's a thank you, Adrian, for giving for unraveling the mystery of peace and helping me to connect the dots of finding a peace. And many others people who are watching us, and they will watch us later on, that how we can find peace. Is a it's a lovely talking to you. And I think next week we are going to talk about the peace architect. And it will be amazing discussion on peace architect, the journey of peace architect, and what are the goals, objectives, and what do we want to achieve. The peace architect, the objectives, the organization, the movement of peace architect.
Yeah.
And that's our topic for the next week. And Adrian is already excited when I say peace architect. Okay, yeah. And
Yeah.
we have discussed how to find peace today. If you have any questions, just leave it in the comment box below. I'll answer it to you. Adrian will get back to you as soon as he can. Thank you. Have a good day, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are.
So
Mhm.